Tomorrow, Jonathan, first game on the docket, Jaguars at Steelers. To help us break this game down, Dejan Kovacevic, the founder of DKPittsburghSports.com, joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Dejan, thank you so much for giving us some time tonight. You know, the Jags have made a big deal this week about the 30-9 win they had over the Steelers early in the regular season. Do you think that has any bearing whatsoever on what happens tomorrow?
I think it does. I think when you see the performance that the Jaguars secondary had, in particular Jalen Ramsey, they were able to build up some confidence, not only in the obvious, which is the 5 interceptions and the 2 pick sixes against Ben Roethlisberger, the worst day of his life, but also in the way they were able to track Antonio Brown. I mean, AB, when he faces most opponents, he freaks them out before the kick goes in the air, you know? And for them to be able to go in having that kind of confidence defensively, I think helps. And also Leonard Fournette had the best game of his life. He described it that way himself right here in Pittsburgh with 181 yards. And most of that came very late on the 90-yard run. But nonetheless, he still had it. So, yeah, I think there's some impact. But I also think that the positive impact from the Pittsburgh side is that there's no way they're going to be taking anything lightly. That's the guarantee here, especially from the standpoint of Roethlisberger, who really took that game hard. I can tell you from being in that locker room with him afterward.
DK, when you look at the ebb and flow of the Steelers season, JD and I were talking earlier about what the Steelers went through earlier with the national anthem and maybe a disconnect between some of the players and the coaching staff. How do you look at where the Steelers are versus how they were earlier in the season as a team?
Well, at the risk of sounding really cliched, they've grown from it all. And they'll tell you that themselves, but more importantly, they've shown it. There was the anthem flap in Chicago. There was AB wrecking the water cooler in Baltimore. There were other distractions along the way, Martavis Bryant demanding the trade, and then, of course, the infinitely more serious one with Ryan Shazier getting badly hurt in Cincinnati. They have found a way to just keep performing through that, and as a result, they've gotten stronger. I've been covering sports in Pittsburgh for 25 years, and including 2 Stanley Cup champions over the past 2 summers, and I've seldom been around a team that is this together, this tight as this Pittsburgh group is, and I think that's been a significant difference from them. You mentioned ebb and flow. For me, it's mostly a slower, sluggish first half, especially for the offense, that really resulted in a significant rise in the second half for the offense, which should have been the identity of this team all along. If you remember what the expectations were back in training camp, this offense always should have been the strength, and now they are.
Dejan Kovacevic from DK Pittsburgh Sports joining us on Dickerson and Hood. It's ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. What do you think realistic expectations are going to be for Antonio Bryant tomorrow, DK, if he plays as most people think he's going to?
Well, there's no question Brown's going to play tomorrow. The players, we're not allowed to talk about what we see in practice, but the players confirmed for us that he was quite good in practice. So there's no issues there. He had an illness Friday that kept him out of that session. I think that the expectation for him every time he takes the field now is nothing less than greatness. I mean, if you go back to the very first snap in Cleveland of this season's opener, he's been by far the Steelers' most consistent performer, but that's not even saying enough. He's been excellent in every game. He's making game-breaking catches, big yards afterward. Is he going to have a harder time than usual against Ramsey and against the way the Jaguars secondary is so aggressive? Yeah, but at the same time, the last time Pittsburgh and Jacksonville met, the Steelers did not have this level of Juju Smith-Schuster, this level of Martavis Bryant. Even the tight ends, Vance McDonald and Jesse James, have come along a lot since then. Ben has a lot of options, and Ben himself has gotten better. And on top of that, we haven't even mentioned Le'Veon Bell, who's actually the Steelers' second leading receiver out of the backfield. So it's not going to be as simple as Jacksonville did a great job hounding AB, and Jacksonville got away with it. They're going to have to be a lot better than that.
If they can get past Jacksonville, do you think that this team is better equipped to take on New England?
You mean better equipped than the time they faced them a month ago?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because I look at the Steelers and the Patriots, and I see still some bad matchups on the Pittsburgh end, particularly defensively. In watching the way the Patriots picked apart just meticulously, judiciously, right down the field, the Tennessee defense, that's the kind of stuff they've done to Pittsburgh over the years. And, there's no easy solution or cure for that. You can say, well, go get Brady. Well, don't think that Dick LeBeau wasn't thinking the same thing. Don't forget, we know Dick LeBeau around here pretty well. This is the guy who invented the Blitzburg defense. And it turns out Brady didn't even get his uniform dirty. So it's easier said than done. That said, I have no doubt, given the way the meeting went last time, that the Steelers' offense can move the ball pretty much at will against New England's defense. So I think you would see another very high-scoring game, regardless of the weather. And I think you see one that's going to be defined by a turnover or two. And, of course, New England's always been the best at that sort of thing.
How much longer, DK, do you think Roethlisberger is going to play for? He, to his credit, is really honest about it. The discussions he's had with his wife, Ashley, he talks about them openly. He's going to talk about it again. He's told us after this coming season. I think that he looks at his situation right now here in Pittsburgh and sees that he's got a generational trio on offense between him and Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. It's a once-in-a-lifetime situation, I think, for a quarterback. And I think he sees that he would at least have this year and next year with those guys at their peak, not to mention this offensive line that is very expensive, $56 million across from guard to guard for those guys. And he loves and trusts those guys as well. I really think that will be the determining factor in his coming back to play again at age 36. I also think that there could be a Jerome Bettis angle in this, and I know you guys know what I'm talking about. In that if they were to win, if they were to win at all, and he can get carried off that field, that I know he liked the way Jerome went out up in Detroit at Ford Field. So I think it's not that simple. I think he's genuinely unclear about it right now, but I know that he appreciates the situation that he has right now with that very special offense.
The Patriots have taken a knee, and it's a final now. They advance to their 7th straight AFC Championship game, so the Patriots win 35-14 over Tennessee. Lastly, DK, kind of an under-the-radar little item, because we've been talking so much NFL tonight. Gerrit Cole traded from Pittsburgh to Houston. That surprised me when I came across the wire. Is this a shell game by the Pirates management? And what are they doing to the fan base by unplugging it here by trading Cole?
Yeah, I mean, they just don't care. I don't know how else to put it. They're a very special circumstance in professional sports. And I think now that you've seen the Miami Marlins go through an ownership change and go through a sell-off of their own, I think there's going to be more national attention and scrutiny on what's been happening here in Pittsburgh for a very long time. It's not an ownership team. It's not a management team or a front office that's remotely serious about winning. They do what they have to do to get their revenue-sharing check year after year. And here, Gerrit Cole was just awarded $6.75 million in arbitration. Boom, there he goes for 4 guys making the minimum. That's what's happening here. And the shame of it is, you guys know this, it was only 2 years ago that the Pirates won 98 games and were filling the place up, but they panicked at the first time anything went wrong, or the notion that they would ever have to raise payroll, unlike what you saw in Kansas City and Cleveland and in other places, and Milwaukee. And then this is what happens. They end up selling everybody off, and you know what? Andrew McCutchen will be next.
DK, thanks for your time, man, and your insight. Enjoy the game tomorrow.
Thank you, guys. I'm going to bundle up. 16 degrees tomorrow.
Balmy.
Balmy in Chicago.
Because he doesn't like the snow.
Dejan Kovacevic from DK Pittsburgh Sports joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line.